Welcome on board. Why do I say welcome on board? That doesn't make sense. Howdy, how are you? Here we are. This is episode 4. I think it's 4. Episode 4 of Cleanpin coming to you, or being recorded rather, a day early, as Turkey Day is upon us. On Thursday, I'm putting this out actually in daylight on Wednesday. Again, this is, nothing to be taken as a serious professional vidcast podcast, as we're doing this through the commute home. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about as far as wrestling goes that I think might be of interest, might be worth discussing. If you're looking at my channel, you could also view my other videos. We talk also about other things besides wrestling, if that piques your interest, right? Which there is a world outside of wrestling. I know sometimes wrestling fans only just like wrestling, but we also talk sports, and all the appropriate links are found down below. I guess if you were to look at what is the big story this week in pro wrestling, to me, anyway, what I would probably think, it goes back to another Twitter battle, another Twitter discussion gone wrong. Who knows what is happening? And more news has actually even come out today, since the initial report started coming out. So, Ranullo, Mr. MR, as I like to pronounce it, because it does not flow off the tongue right for me, and Corey Graves, or at least is it discussion? No, actually it might be criticism. Corey Graves gave some criticism, and it had to do with the War Games telecast, in which he was saying that, I'm summarizing it here. You wouldn't know it, but believe it or not, you have a former world's champion in commentary and in McGuinness, and you also have a WWE Hall of Famer in Beth Phoenix on the commentary team. Basically, what he was insinuating is that Mr. MR was taking up all the mic time. Giving him criticism. Now, we all know that Mr. MR has, been documented that, he has had problems, mental health problems. He struggles with it. He tries to keep it in check. Some days are worse than others. Sometimes there's a period of time where nothing is happening. Other times it's on full display. So it's a thing. It's a condition. And Corey Graves, I believe, I could be wrong, has been on the record too, saying that he had his own share of problems, and I could be wrong, but I believe that's what I heard as well. Okay, so you have the history of those two, what I believe has been known, and after this, it seems that Mr. MR is offended. He not deactivates his Twitter, but puts it, I guess, in almost like private mode. And the whole internet community is a buzz, saying, "Oh, Corey Graves, a D-bag. Corey Graves should get suspended. Corey Graves should get fired." Depending on where you go and what you listen to. Now, do I think MR kind of was on War Games? That telecast was MR kind of on the mic constantly talking? Do I think that? Yes. Do I think? But again, he was on the mic a lot. But sometimes that happens, sometimes one person gets very little mic time, and next week they get a lot of mic time. They talk a lot. I mean, that's the dynamic. I think it's safe to say that happens with, a booth that's, more than one person. So I think that's common. I think that that's reasonable. You could expect that. But I don't think, as I watch NXT and the pay-per-views in general, that this is a week-to-week occurrence. Now, I get some people just don't like the mannerisms of MR on commentary. Some people just don't like him, period. But I just don't think that it really has to do with him always talking, because I don't think that's the case. Now, do Beth Phoenix and Nigel McGuinness, is it possible that they maybe reached out to, is this what they feel, and they maybe reached out to Corey Graves, who maybe has a little bit of extra pull as far as on a little bit of a higher rank as far as commentators? I could also see that happening. So that's very well possible. Could they? But you might say everyone is grown-ups. Shouldn't grown-ups have this discussion in private? That's probably a very good point. Probably a damn good point. Do I think Corey Graves was in the wrong here? Yes. I do think that Corey Graves was in the wrong. For a guy that has been known to deal with certain mental issues, or is very sensitive to certain things, what he could have done if this is how he truly felt, and then he maybe should have gone to him privately, man to man, take him to the side and explain what his issue is with him, if there is an issue. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe that they have worked together before in commentary. So, and it seemed like they got along good. I don't see there being an issue there. But if there is, they're adults. Should have brought him to the side and just discuss what the issue was, especially knowing the type of issues that Mr. MR has been having. It's documented in the past. Why put it all over Twitter? There's no need for that. There really is not. Especially for all the trolls, that's on Team Corey, or that's on Team Marl, just to feast on it. Feast on it. Now, there is actual news today that after the WWE podcast dropped after the bell, and that his whole intention, Corey Graves, was just to have this be kind of play into the whole brand supremacy angle. That's all that he meant by it, and that he apologized. Do I believe that from Corey Graves? I mean, Corey Graves has been known to kind of be controversial on Twitter before. He's known to have done that, and so I could see this playing into it. So I'll take him for his word. But, come on, with a guy like this, certain things, or for Ranullo, I just don't think that you're able to kid around with. So this was a bad look, either way. Just speaking face to face, man to man, to air out your grievances would have been 10 times better. There is problems than doing this on Twitter. And if you were going for brand supremacy, maybe you should have done this with with the guys from Raw. Maybe they're able to take a joke and maybe able to kind of decipher fact from fiction, right? Hey, just my 2 cents there. I did see Broken Skull Sessions with Undertaker and Steve Austin. I did see that interview, and well done interview. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Like the stories that Undertaker was saying. He was telling the story about the infamous picture where they're in the back of the bus, and it's Triple H. You've seen that picture circulate if you're a wrestling fan. It's Triple H. You've seen in that picture Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Paul Bearer's in there. So he talks about that famous picture. He talks about some of his partying days being on the road. He talks about when he first went to be trained by Sawyer. He also explained how Ole Anderson in WCW, after the breakup of the Skyscrapers, and it was time to renew for Mean Mark there. I remember that he was without his tag team partner in Dan Spivey, as he basically quit the company. So now it was Mean Mark there, left. He was negotiating his contract, and pretty much he was shocked. He was surprised. WCW said they had nothing for him. That he would never draw. No one would pay to watch him wrestle. Wow. And I believe Ole Anderson said that to him. Wow. Guess that was big misstep, right? He spoke about how he worried about when he was then interviewing with WWF. He was worried about being stuck in a singing gimmick because on the interview they asked him if he has any special talent. He's like, oh, I could karaoke. So he worried about that. He was worried about getting a horrible gimmick, but he was saying that he would be willing to do it if in fact it would turn out to be horrible, just to get his foot in the door. Kind of how, same way Steve Austin did, got his foot in the door with the ringmaster, even though it was a horrible gimmick. It wasn't a interview which were, if you expected an interview that was hardball questions on the WWE network, that's not the type of interview that you got. Nor would you get that type of interview, these controversial questions on I don't think you get that on the WWE network. He talked about, too, how he was always protecting the gimmick. Back then, if you were to look at his wardrobe, even though he wasn't in his wrestling attire the whole time, the street clothes that he would wear would be all black. So he would, really try to live the gimmick as close to humanly possible. He explained how he was took a little bit of an adjustment because he considered himself an athlete, and he was able to do a lot of these high risk moves that you see a lot of wrestlers do now. And that's what he was used to doing. He realized, he's like, yeah, I could have done a 10-star match. And it took him a while to realize that, or to make that adjustment and say to himself, you know what, I probably cannot have a 10-star match. I can't be doing all these moves because it doesn't fit the character. So he explained how it was an adjustment for him in changing his ring style, his wrestling style, to fit the character in The Undertaker. He explained too how in the early days of who he would go to for advice was only one person, and I couldn't think of it when I heard the interview in that pause there, but Jake the Snake. It was Jake the Snake, and that makes a ton of sense. If you ever heard, ever listened to Jake the Snake on the microphone, very slow, methodical, with purpose, not yelling, talking. You see a lot of wrestlers having adapted that style, and you could say that it was probably, Jake the Snake and Nick Bockwinkel. But Nick Bockwinkel and Jake the Snake are a little bit different in the delivery. Certain people kind of deliver it more like Nick Bockwinkel than Jake the Snake, but it's all very similar. That's why I kind of, if you listen to like Chris Jericho, The Miz at one point, Undertaker, they all have that same style, and I think that could actually be attributed to, Jake the Snake. It's weird when I was listening to that interview. He wasn't using like the Undertaker voice. he was using, his real voice. It's weird listening to The Undertaker and him actually using the actual, his actual voice, not using his gimmick voice. It's weird seeing Undertaker do these type of interviews now, and he's selective. But it's no longer, I don't think, the time of days. It's no longer those days where people would actually ask The Undertaker, like, are you dead or alive? Because they actually couldn't tell the difference, or they act like they couldn't tell the difference. Nowadays, in this time in the wrestling era here, the WWE is humanizing The Undertaker. More and more, they're letting him do these type of interviews. They're humanizing him. That way, it's a lot easier. It's like they're reintroducing The Undertaker to you, the human side of Undertaker, not the character. Now, and that's going to eventually lead, once they humanize him a little bit more, to him being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So once you're more accustomed to The Undertaker the person, that's when you'll see The Undertaker the person go into the Hall of Fame, and so that's really what the goal is here, is to humanize The Undertaker. On this past Monday night Raw, the fallout after Survivor Series, a lot of things have been shifted. One of those things, you could argue, is the heel turn of Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins now comes out in one of the opening segments there on this past Monday night. We're wearing the jacket again, the suit and jacket. Entitled Seth Rollins. He's the entitled one now, and he thinks everything should be about him. And it looks like he has some help in his corner in the Authors of Pain. There's your muscle man, there's your help. And no more, and him, Seth Rollins, turning heel, kind of on a way lesser scale. Way lesser scale. Okay, let me be perfectly honest. When I say that, it kind of reminds me of like when Hulk Hogan turned heel. Hulk Hogan became Hollywood Hogan, turned heel, turned his back on WCW and joined the NWO. And the way he explained it, it's because the fans did it. The fans did it. The fans, booed him. And that's kind of what has happened with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, Monday Night Rollins, has become uncool. Seth Rollins has become uncool. Seth Rollins on Twitter has become uncool. Gone are the days where, Seth Rollins will be fighting 1 hour on Raw. Now you don't even want to see him 5 minutes on your TV screen. So he has become uncool. So he has gone from that spectrum where everyone's favorite wrestler was Seth Rollins to where he is now. So I think if you're Seth Rollins, what you're saying to yourself, well, it's like, okay, well, here's where I become the slimy, heel, where I back down, I run away. The slimy heel that everyone loves to hate, and he's gonna rev it up tenfold. Gonna rev it up tenfold, and listen, Seth Rollins, when he was Seth Rollins, the best Seth Rollins I seen in his singles days was when he was feuding with John Cena. John, that's when he became so annoying, just someone that you wanted to slap because he was so annoying. And that's where they're gonna go with this. And Kevin Owens as face, that kind of seems where the feud is going. I don't know how good Kevin Owens could be as a face. I just know that I loved him when he was a heel. I think that's when he does his best work. We'll see. It all depends on how everyone mix and matches with each other. And I think this is good for the Authors of Pain too. They never really had the chance to hit the ground running. Teaming them with Drake Maverick, I really never understood that pairing. I don't think that did anything for the Authors of Pain. When Drake Maverick is peeing his pants because he's seen the Big Show, and Drake Maverick is the manager of AOP, doesn't make the AOP look all too intimidating, does it? So now they're repackaged. They could get a little bit of the shine with Seth Rollins. You might hate Seth Rollins, but listen, he is a star that you can't deny. Other news too, coming out of Survivor Series, is Daniel Bryan losing to the Fiend. And and I think that was the way to go. Very convincing fashion. I am getting tired of all the red light, the blue light, and whenever you watch a Bray Wyatt match, it is getting quite annoying. I think, with Daniel Bryan losing, I think this is going to lead to the yes chance being ushered back behind Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan refused to take help from Sami Zayn and Nakamura. Refused to be cheered by the fans. I think this is going to lead back to another marriage between the WWE Universe and Daniel Bryan. And though I'll be honest with you, when it was Daniel Bryan that was concerned about the pollution, eco-friendly, I really did love that Daniel Bryan, and I wish it just would have had more time to kind of blossom and flourish, as opposed to the time that it did get. How's everyone doing, by the way? Again, you can check out my channel, the Tom Brand 1. That's a comedy adult channel. You could also check out Tom Brand 1 Thoughts. We do vlogs. We do famous places. We do commentary on things that happened in the past week. So it's a fun place over there too. Check that out. Lana apparently has signed a new WWE deal, and good for her. Good for her. Lana. I remember when Lana made her debut, and with Rusev there, and Rusev hasn't signed, but I think with Lana signing, you could expect Rusev to be signing in a not too distant future. It goes to show you that sometimes, might be speaking for them, but if the characters involved feel, listen, you would think that they hate the segment that they're in right now, right? This whole Lana, Bobby Lashley, Rusev angle. And when it's time to resign, well, that's when you could show them who's boss. And being put in this silly angle, you could resign somewhere else. But they choose not to. So it just makes you think, sometimes, what wrestling websites report and what we think in our mind, yeah, it's an opinion, but it's not always the right one. If there was any friction between Lana and WWE and what their position is in the company, then I guess you could just remove all doubt, because she apparently has resigned. I'm still of the belief that even if an angle is horrible, if you have some type of a talent, you could still pull it off somehow. Now, is this angle horrible? I don't like it. But who's to say? Since this angle is apparently getting a gazillion views on YouTube, like in other markets, then besides, so maybe some sector of people still like it. Still like it. It's let's not assume everything in the beginning, right? But Lana, I don't know what has happened with the character Lana. I remember that when the character first came out, and it was just and that might have been it, where she was like this Russian, ravishing Russian character, where she really didn't have to speak much on the mic. All she would do was speak Russian. And that's why it sounded so good, because it was short and it was Russian and no one knew what she was saying. Now, when it's in English and the accent on it magically is gone, sometimes with her on the mic, it's a little cringe. It's going to be interesting to see what they use Lana for. I know she could wrestle apparently a little bit. But her, with this character going on the microphone, jeez, not really good. on the microphone. I'm sure she tries. I understand. But she's not really that great at all. So, we're 35 minutes in. Just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you guys from wrestling. Just my thoughts there. Cover a few topics. I hope all is well, guys. Check out my other channels. Any questions, any comments, feel free to give me a drop a line there. And I hope all is well. And I look forward to speaking to you guys very, very soon. And this has been Cleanpin, episode number 4. Until next time, happy Thanksgiving.